Hey everybody, my name is Tim, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm just gonna do a talk and hit video and talking about the Houdini 19 launch. So this is mostly just gonna be talking head, me talking to the camera. I'm gonna intercut it with some b-roll, but for the most part it's just gonna be me rambling a little bit. So feel free to put this in the background while you're working, maybe in Houdini 19, which came out today. So you've probably already got it installed, tried it out. So yeah, feel free to put in the background. So yeah, for me this release is a little bit special because this is the first time I was sort of actively involved in the release in somewhat, because I made one of the demo scenes that you see in the Houdini launch presentation. So there's a new feature called Vellum fluids, which is about Vellum is now really a proper sort of like multi-solver for a whole host of elements. You can do soft bodies, cloth, wire, grains. Like you could already do all those things, but now you can also do sort of rigid bodies, and you can do fluids. And my task for the demo video was to demo the Vellum solver and scenarios where like the fluids part of it, and to sort of demo, like create scenes that would be a good demo for, well, to sort of the stuff that Vellum fluids would be great for, which is high surface tension stuff, small scale fluids like droplets, stuff like that. And of course, when you're mixing everything together, which was the final shot in my video, where of course like you have everything working together. You have like the fluid twirl. If you haven't seen the thing, by the way, like I'll put it over the video here. So I guess now you've seen it. But like everything is just one simulation. There's ice cubes, there's the limes, there's the leaves, there's the fluids, and everything is one simulation. Everything is simulated together in Vellum. Something like that will be very difficult to do without Vellum fluids. So that was a very good demo shot with the droplet on the leaf. That one is also would be quite difficult to do before. That one would have been possible. Like I've done droplets before, but now this is a lot more easy and straightforward, a lot more stable. If you want to, by the way, know more about that stuff, I also have I did a presentation for the Houdini launch event. So if you haven't watched that yet, I have a 45-minute presentation on my work on the video, and also sort of as an announcement, I'm doing a full course for the demo scene. It's similar to Sassy Snacks that I did early this year, but with the candy bar. This is going to be similar, so from scratch building the entire demo shot that you saw. So another fall commercial type thing. Wasn't able to announce that before, but now I am, since it was already in the presentation. So that's going to be quite exciting. Yeah, what all of that out of the way. Let's just talk a little bit about Houdini 19. And actually, when I was watching the presentation myself, actually there was so much stuff that I just didn't notice when I was using it, because there's so much new stuff. And like I've been involved in the alpha and beta for a couple of months already. So I've been using it like on a daily basis while making the shot, like for a couple of months. And there was so much stuff that I didn't get into, like I didn't even try. So a lot of stuff was still new to me when I was watching the video. One thing that I did actually encounter, of course, was the better sort of workflow with Solaris. Actually, there was still a lot of stuff that I didn't touch upon, because in the demo they were showing a lot of the sort of the better scene assembly type tools, and actually didn't touch any of that. But one thing that was really compelling when I was rendering all of my shots for the demo, which was, by the way, all rendered in Karma, because a lot of feedback that we got for the previous Sassy Snacks was that was rendered in Redshift. And Redshift is a great render. I love Redshift. I use it myself. It's my preferred renderer. But of course, not everybody has Redshift. So for this one, we were going to try to do it in Karma. So and this was my first time actually actively really doing a project in Solaris and Karma. So that was a learning process. And well, I cannot say that I'm an expert yet, but like now I feel confident working in Solaris, in Karma, and of course in the course we're gonna go a lot more into that. That's gonna be later this year, by the way. There's no date for it yet, but it's gonna be later this year. And it actually works really well. So last time I actively tried doing something in Solaris, I kind of gave up. That was when it just came out. I tried doing a personal project in Solaris back then in Karma, but it was just. Back then, I was running into so many issues. But when I'm using it now, it actually, like, I still was running in some issues, but that's of course normal if you're using a different render engine. Like, you're gonna run into some quirks. That's something you have with any program that you use. But in general, it was pretty stable. I was able to get render times down quite significantly. If you watch my talk about this, you can see that some shots that I tried, First, I started off with having render times of like 40 minutes a frame. Eventually got them down to 10 minutes a frame. And like a lot of issues that I was first running into with stuff like motion blur for some shots, I was able to figure all that out. And for now, and right now, I'm pretty confident rendering a lot of stuff in Karma. I'm still some things that I didn't particularly like that much. Which I might have been something that I was just doing wrong. But for example, debris in the ice scene. So it loads it into USD, and then it tries to build native instances from it. There's options, by the way, to tweak how you want to do it if you want to use impact native instances. But then I noticed that it takes time to do that every time you go into Solaris, and that isn't particularly fast. So that's a little bit of a thing. Like, again, it could be that my workflow for that is just wrong, but I can foresee that not being super easy, not being super fast if you're doing a heavy rigid body sim and then trying to render it. Or maybe not. I'd have to do more testing on that. I mean, it rendered, but it was just that the viewport there wasn't super fast and it took some time to start up. Just something I wanted to throw out there, but in general worked pretty well. And I agree with SideFX that of them taking off the beta. I think it's pretty much good enough to try in a production. Maybe if you're not super technical, if you're just purely an artist, kind of depends. Like, you would need to know how to solve some problems, I guess. But in general, works very well. I didn't have to save anything to USD. What I did is I built all my scenes just in stops, and I loaded them in to Solaris. I just slapped on materials, lights, rendered. All works fine. So that was quite nice. Something to take into. Let me sip my tea. Something to take into considerations, because now there's sort of two competing contexts, which is like your object context and your Solaris context. And like they now have these awesome new tools in order to do like scene assembly. So like paint some scatter stuff in USD and like all of that stuff, like place objects. And that's all like that looks amazing. And it's a really step up to how it's now if you're doing it in SOPs or if you're doing it in OBJ context. Like the new tools look a lot better. By the way, I didn't use those when I did my scene. I mostly built it in SOPs and then just brought it into Solaris. But those new tools look amazing. But keep in mind that if you're going to be doing that, and then if you're also going to be doing stuff in SOPs and USD, there are different contexts. But there are nodes to, for example, load stuff from USD back into SOPs, and like you have to work that way. For example, if you were to do your basic blocking in USD and then bring it back into SOPs, you you would need to import your cameras back into OBJ level, and you need to do all of those things. So it's more of a workflow thing, I guess, to get used to. But there's that. I actually did it the other way around. I did all my stuff in SOPs and OBJ level, and then I imported into Solaris. But again, I guess this takes some time to get used to the workflows. And I'm going to personally be trying to do more in Solaris from now on, because I've seen that it can work quite well. So also expect me to maybe do some more personal project and tutorials in the Solaris context, trying to render them there from now on, because I can see where this is heading. And I mean, you can stay stuck in the past, I guess, trying to keep using just OBJ and the out context. But I get this is all heading into Solaris. So I mean, at some point we all need to go over. But what they did with just bringing Karma into out context and by the way, if you just dive into that node, it's essentially just a lobnet in there, just with scene import, import all, scene import camera, scene like import light, blah blah blah. So it just loads everything from object context, and then it renders it from there. I haven't extensively tried that yet, so I expect them to have tried some edge case scenarios to see if it actually works. I'm wondering how it's gonna work with like stuff like motion blur, because like I mentioned, like I had some issues with motion blur doing stuff in Solaris myself, which I did eventually get working. I'm just wondering how it handles all of that inside the wrapper. But I guess try it out and see how it works. We'll see. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about some of the other stuff. So yeah, Vellum fluids is of course like the thing that I worked on, and like it's really great to have that in Vellum. Of course, it was already possible to do some of that stuff in Vellum before with pop fluid. I actually have a 3-year-old tutorial when they just introduced Vellum. I did a pop when they just introduced pop fluid, sorry, where I actually just had a sort of a demo scene of me just trying to make fluids inside of Vellum. So I had a little bit of like a cloth thing with water flowing in and then breaking open, and a very ugly render from the thing. So it was already somewhat possible to do that. But of course, that was sort of a step extra on top of it. And now because it's all happening inside of Vellum, it's of course much faster, much more accurate. So it's really nice to have it in there and to just be able to just configure the Vellum fluid and have it just do its thing. Don't expect it to be a replacement for Flip, by the way. Like I saw some questions on this when I posted that I actually worked on this. And they also mentioned this in the release video, but it's not a replacement for Flip. It's not faster either. Like it's not, you shouldn't expect it to be faster than Flip, because Flip, like, okay, when fluid simulations started becoming a thing, like back in the day, there was like position-based dynamic. Like if you have ever used RealFlow, there was the SPH solver, which is like particle-based solver. Then later they ported that to the GPU, which already made it a bit faster, but it's still particle-based. And the problem with having solvers that are particle-based is that like every particle needs its own calculation. Which is of course very memory intensive and not particularly fast. So that's why Flip was made in the first place, because what Flip is sort of a hybrid of like particle simulation and volume simulation. So in Flip, the movement of the water is actually simulated inside of a voxel grid, and then the voxel grid sort of advects these particles that are moving through it. And because the volume simulation is quite fast, it means you can, and then you just add the particles in there and you reseed them, etc., etc. You can do a lot more particles a lot faster. Of course, the downside being, and that's why Flip isn't ideal for everything, is that let's say you have like very tiny tendrils and like high surface tension and stuff. You'd need very dense voxels. And of course, if you start adding more voxels, it really slows down. So that's where Vellum fluids is really great, because that is particle-based, but it's GPU accelerated. So even though you're storing all the information for every point, it's just great to have, because it's all on the GPU, it's pretty manageable in terms of speed. Keep in mind that you will need a lot of sub-steps in order to do all of this stuff, because the problem in like keeping having every point interacting with every other point is that similar to if you've ever done a grain simulation in Vellum, you notice that if your substeps are too low, it will sort of just explode and like not be accurate. It's the same if you're doing the fluids. So there's a trade-off there. Like you need high substeps. Like it kind of depends. Like in my demo shots, from the top of my mind, like some of the demos, like for example the final shot with the troll, that didn't necessarily need that many substeps. I think I find it the final sim with like 5 or 8 substeps, something like that. But the droplet or the tendrils, like the droplet hitting the leaf or the rob hitting the line with the tendrils, that's gonna go a lot higher. Especially with the leaf, it was about 30 substeps. But before that, I needed to go even higher when I still had the leaf also be a Vellum object, because right now it's just a static object. I was experimenting with having it also be a just a Vellum sort of tetrahedral soft body, which worked, by the way. It worked fine, but the thing is, like, I wanted very specific control over how much it was bending and stuff, and it just wasn't ideal in a production scenario. I really tried to make that work because I really wanted that to be sort of a like I wanted this needed to be a demo for the Vellum fluids, so I wanted to make that work, but it just didn't make sense in that scenario. And since we already had the final shot where everything is interacting, it didn't really matter that much that shot wasn't going to be an interaction shot. So the leaf there was just a like I animated it and added some chops to do some like do the wiggling, and then I just put the drop on, added some forces. If you want to see more on that, like, and again, watch my talk. Yeah, so that one needed quite high substeps. But like, it's just really cool to have this in there, and I'm excited to see what everybody's going to be doing with this with these new tools, because it's quite exciting, and like I'm excited to see where they're gonna take it from here, like maybe in terms of speed up. Like, I don't expect it to get a lot more faster in the future. Maybe it might. I don't know, because it's still particle based. So like there's a reason why people went to Flip in the first place, because it just has a lot of benefits for larger scale things. But like in terms of sort of what you can do with it, some things that I would like to see is, for example, like having more control over sort of stickiness. Like, you have friction now, but in order to do actual stickiness, you need constraints to form. And of course, you can do that yourself. You can create constraints on the fly. The thing is, in order to do constraints on the things, you would need, so you would need to like build constraints yourself from the collision object to the points, which adds some extra geometry, stuff like that. That's all possible. You can do that yourself, but it would be cool to see that baked into the solver, to like have a slider of like stickiness that will maybe do that itself. So that's something I would like to see maybe in the future, because that will have some cool scenarios where you could like just, for example, just throw some soft body object and then have some fluid and then have it stick together and put like a sort of a glue type thing. But then there's something like that is not possible right out of the box. You can make it work, but it requires some more manual work. And again, you need to be a little bit more technical to make that work. Perhaps I'll do a separate tutorial on how you could do something like that, because I did experiment with that when I was working with Houdini 19. But yeah, that is quite exciting. Oh, and by the way, I kind of skipped ahead because I was talking about Karma before. I kind of completely skipped over Karma XPU. Actually didn't extensively use that yet, because when I tried it, like when I was working on my shot, it wasn't really like when I was already working on it, they were still adding a lot of features. So, and I had to make it work. So I just needed something that I knew I could render. So I decided to completely stick with CPU. I did try with XPU, but the thing is with XPU is and actually didn't know this up until pretty recently, but you need to use Material X in order to take full advantage of it. Because XPU requires a USD preview material. and Material X converts it under the hood to USD preview material. You can also do this yourself to just build it with the USD preview material. I did some experiments, but it would be just like, it just was too much overhead to make it work with my scenes. And a lot of stuff wasn't working, like subsurface scattering isn't working, for example, yet on XPU. Also, I ran into some issues when I was trying to render my final scene with XPU, that the memory got filled up. But it could be that instancing just wasn't configured correctly on my side. But I'm excited to see, for example, to talk about like Adam Swap is doing it. I'm recording this before the launch event, so Adam Swap has done a talk about Material X and Karma GPUs. I'm kind of excited to watch that because he spent more time working on that. So I guess if you want to know more about that, like try that. Like I've experimented with a little bit, but like you cannot just use principled shader out of the box because maybe it might change in the coming releases. Like I don't know what they're doing, but if you're using principled shader now, a lot of stuff just doesn't work. Normal maps don't work on XPU. Displacement doesn't work on XPU. They do work if you use, like if you build it yourself with Material X or with USD preview material. Yeah, so there's that. When I was trying the demo, I thought that volumes weren't working, but then I watched the release video and actually they do work. And I guess that's also a thing where you have to use the Material X volume in order to make that work, because the principled shader stuff wasn't working. So like there's like I mentioned, there's so much stuff that I didn't notice when I was just working with it. But like yeah, but like in general, I'm really excited to see where this is heading. Of course, this is still alpha tech, but like I mentioned in the presentation, like they're trying to have this in beta next year and then production release like in 2023. And like honestly, if they can deliver sort of what Karma delivers now on CPU, and if they can like completely have that work on XPU, and then hopefully also with multiple GPU supports, because as of now I think it only uses one GPU, but if they can make all of that work, use multiple GPUs, that would be probably a reason for me to just drop Redshift and just use XPU. But for now, of course, that's not possible yet, because if you could use XPU, you would have access to all of the stuff inside of Houdini, and that would be just like really amazing. Like you could then probably also use Vex to program shaders and stuff like that. Of course, you can also do that in OSL and Redshift, but like that would be a reason for me to drop Redshift. We're not there yet, but I can see maybe in 1 or 2 years that might be something that could potentially have me switch completely to Karma. But let's see. It's exciting that they put this in alpha in an alpha release and just have people try it out. I think it's really cool that they're actively doing that. It's just a cool sort of design philosophy. Like there's like some developer, like some software user, you do okay. I'm sort of trembling over words here, but for example, Maxon with Cinema 4D, what they do with their releases is they generally try to not release stuff, for example, before it's ready. It has some pros and cons. Like Cinema 4D, for example, is really sort of aimed at people who are not really technical, just more artists. But for Houdini, I think it's really cool that they're sort of giving stuff in the hands first of just the people to try and then expand on top of it. And that also, I guess, leads us into some other stuff. Like they've improved upon KineFX with like the stuff that you can do delay on stuff. Like they've introduced the sort of the live link with the mocap stuff. So it's it's really cool to see sort of this experimental tech make it in like first for the sort of technical artist, and then they're just making it easy, like step by step by step. They also did that with Solaris. Like there was first just a base layer, and they just keep making it easier and easier and easier. Same with Pyro. Like Pyro was always in DOPS. Now they have it in SOPs, like easy to use. Now they introduced the Spark, the Spark tool. It was kind of funny that they opened the teaser with that, because and I think probably the reason why they opened the teaser with it is because the Houdini 19, like the what do you call it? Like the startup screen is the Spark tool, which is really cool art. So that's probably why they opened the teaser with it. But of course, it's not the most exciting feature, but it's a nice to have. Like, it's really useful to have something like that. If you need to do sparks or rain, there was like, it's something that's like not hard to make yourself. Like, if you know some Houdini, if you're like a little bit technical, like it's not too hard to make something like that. But it's nice to have these wrappers. And then of course you can just go in there and like build stuff yourself. But it's kind of nice that they're sort of actively adding these tools. And also, like, because that's what's also what SideFX Labs is doing, that they're just building tools and then slowly they're integrating more of these tools into the main Houdini releases. And like, I'm really liking this sort of direction that Houdini is taking there, about like just give it to the users, have them try it, and then we'll sort of integrate it slowly over time, like build upon it, make it easier to use. So I'm really liking sort of what they're doing there. Another thing that I think is really cool, and I should have put this in the beginning of the video. I'm really going back and forth here, but again, like I mentioned, this is sort of more ramble thing. Like, I didn't script this. I'm just talking about the stuff that about the release. Like, so the asset browser. And I didn't try this. Like, I knew it was there, but I didn't need it when I was doing my own demo video, because it was still in active development, and like I didn't particularly need it. But it does look really cool, and I'm super excited to just have a sort of a way to sort of build an asset library inside of Houdini, because that's just something that was really like you did have something like you had galleries, like you could make a gallery and just add models in there, but to have like a proper sort of asset library with like models, and you can organize stuff and like throw them in, it was something that like I really wanted, and now it's there. So that's just really nice to have. I'm really excited that it's there. One thing that I don't particularly like from, like, I haven't tried it much yet. Like I mentioned, like I only I knew that it was there, but I didn't try it. Like, so my knowledge of how it works is same to you if you watch the Houdini launch video. But what I did try from it is that it only takes USD assets, and I kind of get it, because they're really trying to push for USD usage. Like, they're really trying to have people use USD as sort of like into the future to as the main thing, like as a complete replacement for how we're doing everything now. So I do get it from that side of it. It just would have been nice to have it be a more all-round asset browser where I can also just add OBJ stuff, FBX, Alembics, BGOSC, like stuff like that. Because now you need to go and convert everything to USD, which is, I mean, of course, a lot of work. If you're going to be working in USD, of course, that's not necessarily a problem. But for example, if you're going to be doing like if you're using just any model or any or even if you're using Megascans, like I tried loading in just Megascans, even if I'm doing it in USD, I cannot get it to just like, you need to do some manual work in order to configure that asset, in order to be able to export it properly, in order to be able to load it into the asset browser. Because like from the short time that I've tried it, even if I loaded it in as USD, I couldn't just export it and load it into the asset browser. I had to do some manual work. But even for others, like if you have a model library on your NAS or like your company or where, like somewhere, it would have been easier if you can just like click your stuff, add like whatever it is that you're doing, and just have it there. Or just like it's your BGOs, because like just as an intermediate format, like let's say you're doing a Pyro sim and you want something in your asset browser, and now you'd have to put it in like through USD first. So I understand why they're doing that, because they want people to use USD. It just would have been nice to also have some more, just have it be more sort of usable in the now if you're not wanting to use USD, because it's a really cool tool. And like I'm not sure if they're gonna change that, because I mean USD is obviously, like Solaris and USD is obviously the way they were heading. So I guess you just need to get used to it at some point. But it's just something that would have been nice to sort of have there. Right, so now onto some of the more, I guess, minor features or major features, I guess, depending on how you're gonna define it, because some of these are actually quite nice. For example, finally a curve tool that actually works. Because like dealing with curves in Houdini was really just really annoying. Before, you had to convert curves back and forth or poly bevel points, or like it just wasn't a good experience. And that's finally addressed with a new curve tool. So that's gonna make me very happy. A lot of people it's gonna make very happy. It's gonna make a lot of motion designers especially very happy. So that's just really nice to finally have. So that's just yeah, really cool to have. Another thing that I'm really happy with is the new file cache node. And I was actually sort of building something like that myself before, but I never finished it. So file caching, okay, so you've probably seen my VFX pipeline folder VFX folder structure video, where I have some presets for my file cache that I was using to just do easy versioning, all of that, and they've build all of that into the actual file cache node now. So you can throw all of my presets out now, because you can now just use this one. And like this, like you don't need any of those presets anymore, because this does everything that my thing did and more. So this is a lot better. And I was actually at some point building a PDG background thing in it myself, which well, I was good doing that, and then I got busy and I didn't finish it. But I'm happy I didn't finish it, because now they have that themselves, which is really nice if you're doing background renders for like caching out stuff. Because with your normal file cache, the problem there is that it's linear. So if you're doing like normally, if you just save out a sequence, what it's sort of just doing is just saving it one frame after another. Which is, if you have like something that takes a couple of seconds to process, or like a minute to process, that is not too bad. But if you have if you have something that doesn't saturate your RAM or your CPU usage, it was actually faster to just build a topnet, throw it in there, and have PDG do the work and like be able to cache multiple frames simultaneously. Or you could do it in Deadline, for example. But now they actually built that into the file cache node. So if you put save deleting background, then it will actually just do that in the background. So it will just fire up multiple instances of Houdini in the background and do all of that. And that's just really nice. And I'm very happy to have that there. So that's a minor feature maybe to some, but for me, this like, I really like having it there. So super nice to have all of that there. Super exciting. Some other, I guess, more minor features, like having an access force, gas access force. So that's something you kind of need quite a lot. And normally you would need to build that yourself. So you would build your own sort of volume, like your own volume velocity, and source that into DOPS in order to be able to do something like that. And like all of that stuff, you could do it like that and make sort of similar things that they're showing now. But of course, to have it in a gas node is just going to be, well, a lot faster and a lot more convenient. Because like, I don't know about you, but like I use the pop access force a lot. Like also in my demo scene, like the troll thing uses pop access force, and having all of that functionality in a guest node is just really nice to have. And yeah, it's just great. It's going to be a lot faster, and just really nice to have. And like from what I've seen, like I haven't really extensively tried it myself yet, but from what I saw in the video, it has a lot of functionality that looks super useful. So some other things that are not minor, but maybe a little bit more minor to me, are all the new character effects tools. I don't really do a lot of character effects myself, or I haven't done that many. Like I've done some grooming stuff with some hairs. Well, not the grooming, but like I've done some hair simulation stuff. Not particularly grooming. It's more of an artist job, I guess. But it's nice to see all of that. The new muscle system seems really cool. I haven't extensively used the other muscle system yet, but if it's all inside of OBJ before, that does seem like, because the rigging system also used to be inside of OBJ context, and it just really sucked balls, to be frank, which they also brought into OBJ context. Into sub context with KineFX. So it's really nice to have all of these character effects now inside of just inside of subs. Also the updated KineFX there is just really nice from what I can see. And of course this is a stepping stone, but like I'm really liking how Houdini is becoming more and more of a sort of a general use package, and I cannot wait for the day when more stuff will be done in Houdini. Like for character animation necessarily doesn't really matter that much for now, because normally if you're having character animation, like people are going to write it out to Alembic anyway, and you just import it in Houdini and you do whatever you need to do with it. You render it, or you do your simulations in it, whatever. But it's going to be cool if character animations down the line can actually animate inside of Houdini. And that they can use all of these cool new KineFX things like dynamics and stuff. And then that can, I guess, really help the workflow. Also having like the live mocap streaming and then being able to mix it with like hand animated stuff. And again, like I'm not a character animator, but I can see how that can be super useful if you are a character animator. So we'll see where that goes. But like, I think it's really a trend of like making Houdini more of a hub for a lot of things. Also with sort of Solaris becoming more and more user friendly, I can also like see like look dev, lighting, shading things come more towards Houdini. And like I keep going back to the Solaris thing throughout the video, but so Solaris is really nice for look dev. It's just like you can just branch off stuff. And just, for example, if you just have a model shaded, you can just merge it somewhere else with a backdrop in there, with your Macbeth chart and your orbs, and like just have like do your look dev in there, and then after that is like just merge the asset back into your main scene and do stuff like it's a really nice way of just working, which I'm really liking, and that wasn't as easy to do before. Well, you could have multiple ROPs with stuff being loaded, but it wasn't as straightforward. So this is really a thing that they're doing more and more. Also with the live link with Unreal and like with the labs tools, making stuff more easier to export. I'm really liking the sort of the hub thing that they're doing. And of course, it's never gonna be the only package that you're gonna be using that's going to be used in a production pipeline. I don't think you'd want that, because like jack of all trades, master of none, I guess. But I do really like just what they're doing in general, of just making this of a more just a hub for experimenting, trying stuff, and for other people that don't normally even use Houdini to be able to take advantage of Houdini for certain things, while at the same time just making it more user-friendly for people that do want to stay in Houdini, while at the same time now, and like they started doing that with Karma, but like introducing more sort of beta software, and then iterating upon that, and just I don't know, like I really like the direction that they're taking with this of like just have people break it and then just see what works, instead of the other approach of like completely polishing it up and then giving it to people. Maybe people don't even like it. Like I prefer this way of just like experimenting. That's what I like to do anyway. It's sort of my workflow also when I'm working. Like I just break everything and then just like I hack everything together, and then just from there I'll take it and I'll just make it better. Yeah, I think I've been rambling on too long. I'm actually forgetting one other cool feature. And then I'm gonna round it up. I'm really liking that they're doing a volume lattice, which is something that you could do it yourself. Like Stephen Knipping has it in one of his tutorials, by the way, how to build something like that yourself, which was a volume based approach instead of point based approach. So you could already do stuff like that, but it's just really nice to have something like that by default. And I'm actually surprised that it took them that long to introduce something like a volume lattice, because I mean, Houdini is really known for like volumetric stuff and like doing stuff with volumes, and then to not have something like that and really needing to build your own implementation of it. And like there's dozens of implementations, like I mentioned, like there's the volume implementation. Stephen Knipping has done a tutorial on that. Like I have my pyrofluid course where I'm doing like point based thing, which is a little bit different, but and from what I saw in the video, they're using a more point-based approach, but in the backend for the volume lattice. But it's pretty fast, and I actually did use it extensively while trying stuff out for the demo scene. I didn't end up using it, but I used it to actually create some velocity fields and just move them around and then distort them with some noise, because that's actually quite cool. Like you could make just a simple velocity volume, for example, and then just deform it yourself and like pull in it. Like even if you're not just using deformations to actively deform a smoke sim, you can deform your velocities and then use that to affect other stuff. And like that's stuff that I played around with when I was testing this. And that's just there's a lot of cool things that you can do. But yeah, I think I'm done rambling now. I'm sure that I missed a lot of things, but like these are my main thoughts about Houdini 19 as a release. I think it's a really cool release. I'd like to hear what your thoughts on it. And of course, I'm gonna be doing a lot of videos with the new tools. Like I mentioned, later this year, gonna be a big course on the Houdini demo scene, and that's gonna, of course, be very Vellum fluids focused, but also going to include Solaris and Karma stuff, because that's what I've been using to render. So I'm also going to be including all my thoughts on that there, like in how to use that. So I think that course is going to be very interesting, because in the previous Sassy Snacks, we were really using everything in OBJ context. And this one is it started off as mostly being a demo scene for Vellum fluids, but because I'm also rendering in Karma, it's also going to be a very interesting sort of, I guess, example of how the workflow in Solaris is going to be from a production standpoint, because this is going to be a production shot and it's going to be rendered in Karma and Solaris. So that's going to be, I think, interesting. Again, there's no date for that thing yet, but I'm happy that I can finally announce that I'm actually working on that. So yeah, you'll see when that's done, I guess. And yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was interesting. Let me know if you have any questions, or like let me know what you think of the Houdini launch. Like what were your favorite parts of this release? What would you like to see in 19.5 or Houdini 20? Like, do you have feature requests that you'd like SideFX to implement? Yeah, let me hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, leave this a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more, and see you in the next one. Peace.